some members of the committee were opposed to use the club members' money to redecorate the meeting hall. So when I'm reading this, again, something seems off. What is it? Now let's understand this. Now when you have sentences where, there are more than one or two verbs, right? For example, here I have some members of the committee were opposed to. Then I have use, that's another verb. Then I have to redecorate, that's another action verb, right? So I have multi-part verbs, right? So when there are too many verbs in a context, there's a concept of either a gerund or a infinitive form or a participle coming into play, right? So having said that, some members of the committee were opposed to doing what, right? If I break it here, right, and I'm asking a question, they were opposed to doing what? And the question answers with use the club members' money. So if I'm asking this question, doing what, I need a continuous verb form here, right? Some members of the committee were opposed to not use the club members' money, using the club members' money. Yes. So basically here, this is functioning like a gerund, right? In doing what? Using the club members' money to redecorate the meeting hall is a definite no. Why? Because some members of the committee are opposing it. Are you following? Let me give you another example. So if I say, with a book, let's say with a book, Vinay was beating dog over its head in an attempt to retrieve his phone. Let's say the dog took Vinay's phone and ran off. Okay, so with the book, Vinay was beating the dog over its head in an attempt to retrieve his phone. So in the context, right, I have a lot of verbs, more than one action word, right? So with the book, Vinay was doing what? Beating the dog over its head in an attempt to retrieve his phone. Vinay ran with a book behind. So here, sometimes we need to kind of break down sentences and try and understand what's the right verb form that I need in the context. So with the book, Vinay was doing what? He was beating the dog over its head in an attempt to retrieve his phone. Right? So the intention, remember, infinitive, the function of an infinitive, the function of an infinitive is, right, here in the context, the infinitive is to redecorate. What was the intention? Why are the committee members opposing? And what are they opposing? Using the club members' money. For what? The intention is to redecorate. Right? That was the purpose or the intention. So here, to redecorate, the infinitive form is correct. But here, use is not in the right form. I need a gerund form. Right? Answering the question, doing what? So I just gave you another example. So with the book, Vinay was doing what? Beating the dog over its head. So beating here is functioning like a gerund. I hope you know what a gerund is, right? Verb plus ing, which functions like a noun. And how do I know it functions like a noun? It answers the question what? Who, what, right? Subject, object, noun. So the error is in part A. You don't say to use, you change it to opposed to using. So don't get confused with to use as a infinitive. I don't need an infinitive here, right? In fact, the collocation is opposed to. That's the collocation. Verb plus preposition collocation. It's like, I'm sure you follow collocation by now, right? We've been using that time and again. Collocations are fixed expressions. So to follows opposed. Opposed to. Yeah? Next one, I was convinced that the only thing I wanted to ever is to write novels. I was convinced that the only thing I wanted to ever is to write novels. Is there an error? Okay, there's a slight, it's not ever here, okay? I think it's to do. It's there correctly in the options. So, question, what's the general tense in the sentence? I was convinced he would join us for the discussion. I was convinced that I would get above 170 marks. So, no error? So, my question, nobody's answering my question. What is the general tense in the sentence? If I have to identify the general tense in the sentence, I need to pay attention to the verbs, my action words. Can you quickly identify the verbs in the context? Which is convinced. What's the other one? Quickly. Wanted, right? Which means the general tense is past tense. So is there any other verb or helping verb which is not aligned with past tense? What is that? And what do I need to change? Which means, where do I need to change that? I was convinced that the only thing I wanted to do was, yes, which is in part B, was to write. Is infinitive. You don't have to change anything because it answers the question. It states the intention or the purpose. So you don't have to make any changes to write. That's the infinitive. So I was convinced that the only thing I wanted to do was to write novels. Okay. Error is in part B. You change is to was.